Greetings, one and all. I've entitled this video, Character Assassination, because I've had many mics. I've told you before, they're big and they're bold and they do this and they push to the back and they do that and they do something. These, seems to me, don't want any of that. Character. They've assassinated it. They've eschewed it. They're looking for the truth, seems to me. And if you look at the literature, what you can find of it, obviously it's Earthworks SV33, no longer made, I don't think. SR40V, no longer made, I don't think. Kind of similar. Their newish one, SR117, and the de facto, DPA de facto, whatever it is, 4018, I believe it is. This is a linear version, so flat, no character, no stuff, or very little. So that seems to be the aim of these mics. And indeed, when you look, what you can find, some of the older stuff, blah, 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 it's all about capturing what's there. This one in particular, well, is wider cardioid, so it's meant to be picking up this resonance from the chest and from here, and they go into quite some detail about where you can position it. So not just that is the idea. It's picking up what someone would hear standing in front of you. Very subtle, but they'd hear all that as well. So that's the idea with that. Obviously studio. This is staged, so it's going to be straight there, and they're not planning to do that, and they've got to watch out for feedback. That's the other thing. When I looked, what they mentioned then is detail, speed, extended frequency, just very, very, I'm going to say almost scientific, but like good, true microphone stuff, like trying to be accurate. They mention all things like that, which I liked. And then they mention the practicalities, which you have to have for a stage mic. So they mention about pops and about handling noise and all the practical things, and being cardioid, of course, feedback rejection, which you've got to have. If I may go on and say, there's a website, and I'll put the link beneath, which I found very interesting, explaining how the different types of microphone and how they're made and some of the issues with it. And the conclusion I drew from reading that website, which I'll put the link, is that, if you like, dynamics, we've got as far as we can. I often wondered that, because the biodynamic M88, I know you've got to be careful how you use it. It might not suit some people, but I thought, is there anything any better than that? There's stuff that's different. And nothing seems to be. That was designed in 1962. So it seems to me then that with dynamics, it's very much dependent on the materials for the diaphragm, and nothing that much has changed. So what they're doing is, there are resonances with those materials, and they're saying, if you look at the website, they're trying to balance them by doing stuff, which I thought with the M88, because it's got this tube that goes in, and indeed on the SM58, apparently, is the body cavity is a resonator, and they're balancing with all that, rather like loudspeakers and their ports, and they're balancing all that to try and make that accentuation from the diaphragm material, which has got its own resonant frequency, which is going to come through. So everybody's playing with that. And there's some people are thinking, well, let's take advantage of that and say it cuts through and it does this because it's got a bit of distortion in there or something. And they've got, so it seems to me that I'm getting the feeling that dynamics, really, people are just playing with the seasoning, and that nothing's really moved on. Notice, though, that all these three are condensers. I think a couple of things about that. If you look at the website, obviously they can be fast and light, and they've got an amplifier in there. There will be resonances with the diaphragm, I'm sure, but you've got the opportunity to balance that up electronically, perhaps. I don't know if it's done. I think it must be. Before I get on to them, I've said enough, I know. But I remember with loudspeakers and hi-fi loudspeakers, what they started to do after a while, different materials. So they had ceramic tweeters, but they sounded a bit ceramic. They then had a phase with, they've still got them, metal dome tweeters, but they sounded a bit metallic. They've still got them. But a lot of people are using the original silk dome tweeters, which is rubberized or coated with something so that it's got to remain light, which seems to sound quite natural. They've tried different cone materials, as you probably know. It was paper. Paper isn't as simple as that, though, I can tell you, because there's mixtures with the length of the fibres, and they blend the fibres at different parts of the cone to create different flexibilities. It's not just, I've got a piece of paper. It's not like that in the shape of it. Is it straight-sided, or have you got that, is it parabolic with a curve? So it flexes, all sorts. So there's paper, but it's not just paper. Paper cones. Then in the 70s they had Bextreme, which was a kind of plastic. And as you know, they probably had Kevlar. I think they've had a sandwich of some sort of ceramic and all the rest of it. Guess what? An aluminium dome, and guess what? The aluminium one sounds aluminium. The Beckstream one sounds plasticky. So a lot of the high-end speakers are still using paper again, sometimes coated with something. So whatever you use is going to have a sound, basically, is what I'm saying. Same with the microphones, I'm sure, and the diaphragms. What they did with the speakers, to some extent, and you've got the cabinet as well, you've got to watch out for, all as a sound, is when these things have got digital and they put the amps in the speakers, powered monitors, what you could do, of course, is measure the speaker. Anything that was a bit scrappy and you didn't like, you could feed it into the digital system and try and get rid of it. So you could get away with perhaps with lower quality components, not so toleranced, and try and correct it in the amplifier, which is what they did. But then some people got fed up with that. But you'll see a lot of the high-end speakers are self-powered in the studio monitors because you can match. Yeah, you can do that. You can match the amplifier to it. Not necessarily cheating, though some of them were kind of cheating, happening a bit with lenses, in that some of the modern lenses, photographic lenses now, they've got a profile for the lens and the camera applies it immediately. So if your lens has got barrel distortion and vignette where it's darker at the corners because you've got a wide, fast lens, but it can't quite hack it really, so it's darker at the corners, well, the software knows that, so it balances all that out. So when you look, wow, fantastic. And I'm sure it is fantastic. But the thing is, you'd find that if that lens was then put on a camera without all that, you'd think, my God, this expensive lens, and look at it. It's got chromatic aberration because it removes that. It's got it's got all that stuff going on, and the software has just sorted it. So the actual physical manufacturing of the lens, I'm not going to say some of them it's not so good on the cheaper lenses. I'm sure on the high-end ones they're still doing the best they can with the glass. But they think, well, if we compromise here and don't worry about the vignetting that's inevitable, perhaps, for what we're doing, software will sort it. And that gives us a better overall end result than trying to sort the vignette, which means you've got to make differences to the glass and this and that, which then makes something else worse. So I don't know. At last, to the microphones then. So you can see, perhaps with these condenser microphones with their amplifier in there, it would be rather foolish not to take advantage of that and try and make the end result better. I'd have thought. Anyway, what am I going to do? Well, I'm just going to go through them. We've got the SR40V, 117, 3 Earthworks, I'm afraid. And there is another one I want to get. There's a triangular diaphragm. I've been reading about that, which again talks about being very flat, fast and extended, and doesn't mention pushes your voice to the back of the room or any of that kind of thing. But it's quite expensive. Erhuld, I think it is. It's Swedish. Erhuld, I think. So I've been trying to borrow one. They didn't reply. So if you put some pressure on the triangular diaphragm condenser, stage condenser, see if you can get them to send me a demo copy so I can get my mitts and my voice on that. Let's just go through. I've got my general comparison thing here. I've got a few extra bits I want to do as well. So I'll put chapters in, don't worry. Let's just hear what's going on. This is the SV33. This is the SR40V. This is the SR40V. This is the SR40V. This is the SV33. It's a bit loud. This is the SV33. This is the SV33. Very family resemblance, as you ask me. I feel there's a bit of something there in the SV33, which you would expect. And also it's designed for that. Maybe it's that thing you're talking about. Where's this is designed for that? The SV33, SR40V, SR40V. Good handling noise. There's some low thud under there. If you've got headphones, you'll hear, but generally very good. SR40V. We've done the pops. I've done reviews of all of these, so. This is the SR117. SR117. I'm going to turn it up just a tad. This is the SR117. This is the SV33. SV33. I can hear that. SV33. I can hear that kind of some warmth down there. This is the SR117, and that isn't there. Could be this picking up this. What is it meant to do? Bring it a bit closer. That's the SR117. Handling noise is good. SR40V. Just a bit, just Excellent. But, as I say, stage. This is the de facto. This is the de facto, the DPA de facto. This is the DPA de facto, which I'm going to turn up just to keep turning everything up. It'll all be the same in a minute. This is the DPA de facto. This is the DPA de facto. So I'm aware of a bit more of that, I think. A bit more of that, I think. It's nice. That. Not bad. A bit contained. So, what does the manufacturer say? Well, I can't remember. Well, two of them are discontinued, so. And I've told you what most of them say. They talk about the scientific nature, the trying to be a good microphone. In other words, pick up what's in front of it, and you've got to mitigate all the stage stuff, of course. I was going to say, physical size, you can see DPA is lighter. The two Earthworks mics, much the same, seems to me. Shall I do this? I may as well. I'm only going to do it once. That's the physical size, handling weight, diaphragm size. There goes my guarantee. Well, can't really see on that one, but I've fiddled about with this before. And it seems to me that it is much the same, if I can feel through the foam. No. My goodness. I think it's smaller. This one's pretty small, you can see, I'm sure. I think this one's even smaller underneath the foam. Oh, I read something on that site or somewhere about it said diaphragm size doesn't matter for low end. Certainly matters for high end, because it needs to be able to move. Size and weight, obviously. And I thought that would reduce the low, but this one's got mighty low. I don't know. I don't know the answer. So look at this one. This is the DPA. Assuming that the diaphragm is pretty much the size of that covering. It looks about that size, which is going to be some noise now. Looks to me about the same size as this. Give me a second. Yep, no, you can hear the room, of course. Yep, looks pretty, it's got a plastic shroud around it, of course. Looks pretty similar to that. So these two, much the same. That one possibly a little bit smaller. These two, smaller still, and even smaller on the SR40V. Okay, back in business. Let's have a look at the frequency charts, which I shall put on screen. Look at that. Wow. Well, all of them pretty much from 100 to 10. Close to ruler flat. Let's just go through. So the DPA, I can see tailing off. Well, around about 2, does it? A little under 2 starts to tail off. It's difficult to tell from this. No proximity trace, of course. As you can see, goes up to 10k, 20k as it says, just down a little at 20k and then tails off. That's fine, isn't it, for a stage mic? SR40V, lordy, just seems to go from 30 when it's close. Ruler flat. To what's that? Is that 30 at the top there or more? 40 with that tiny diaphragm. I'm thinking there must be something going on electronically, surely. Well, it is an electronic condenser, is an electronic mic, so it doesn't mean that there's any, that's part and parcel of it, isn't it? The 117 ruler flat again, interestingly, with a little, see where they put those blue lines? Where's that one? 10 kilohertz. Pretty ruler flat, just a little dip just before it, but that's so small. And then a little hump after it, and then sort of skedaddles off to, I don't know what the demarcations are. But so it was not very useful. Well, it is useful. We can guess what it is, but it's pretty much like the others, actually. And the SV33, look at that, flat all the way, just a little bit at the top there, a little dip at 20k, as if you'd hear that. And then it goes up, a little bump, 25k, as if you'd hear that. Well, I don't know. People do say maybe if you've got the system for it, they do say maybe it makes a difference down. So The Earthworks, 3 of them, look much the same. No proximity trace. So let's have a listen and see if we can make any sense of that. What I'm going to do is this thing that I call isolating the frequencies. So let's see, it's a bit messy in that I've got to do it in the right order, and I'll put chapters as I say. Right, I'm on the SV33, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of the mid, get rid of the bass. This is the SV33 just with a 12K treble. I'm going to turn the 12K treble up on the SV33, and actually it's very sweet, isn't it? That's the treble fully up at 12K. I don't know how many dB that's meant to be. Doesn't seem to say. Does it say 15? Could be. Plus or minus 15, I think. Anyway, that's 12.5K at the top there. Putting it back to flat. Now the microphone's flat. Here's the mid. I'm boosting the mid, as you can hear, there. Going to get rid of the other 2 frequencies so we can isolate the mid. This is the mid not boosted. This is the mid not boosted. Bass off, treble off. Boosting the mid a little bit. Boosting the mid a little bit, and that gets a bit like that. That could be the desk. The desk isn't bad. It's not top end by any standards, but I have tested it out against other things. It's not bad. So for cheap and cheerful, it's not bad at all. That's the mid. Everything back to flat again now. Going to remove the mid. I'm going to remove the treble, and now we're just left with the bass. Now we're just left with the bass. Now we're just very clean, I think. Obviously my voice sounds muffled because you can't hear the those other frequencies, but the bass itself, to me, there's not a lot of overhang. It's not muddy or blurred. Boosting the bass, boosting fully. Steve. So to me, pretty good performance through that. Onto the SR40V. This is the SR40V. I'm going to take the bass and the mid out. Bass and the mid have gone. This is just the top end, 12K of the SR40V. Or is it 12.5? No, it's 12. Here we go. Boosting it slightly. Boosting it slightly. It's very sweet. Boosting it some more. Boosting it more. That's fully boosted at 12K. And the other 2 fully turned down. 15 dB down at 2.5 and 80. But it still sounds it's okay that. It's quite sweet, very sweet. Well, with that tiny diaphragm, seems to handle it really well. Putting the other 2 back in again. Taking the mid the top out and taking the bass out, we've just left with the mid. We're just left with the mid, which isn't too bad. Boosting the mid. There's a little bit of... This is the mid not boosted. And there's a little bit of... which I don't think is the desk. Boosting it, then difficult to know, isn't it? But there it is. Everything back flat again. There's everything back flat again. I'm going to take the mid out and taking the top out, and we're just left with the bass. This is what the bass sounds like. This is what the bass sounds like. I'm going to boost the bass. Boosting the bass fully. Once again, sounds very clean to me, which you'd expect from that tiny diaphragm. It's not going to be an overhang, I wouldn't have thought, from something that small and obviously that light. Okay. Onto the SR117. Let's go between these 2, just speaking for a minute there. Excuse me. This is the SR40V. This is the SR40V. This is the SR117, which I'm going to turn up again just a little bit. This is the SR117. This is the SR117. This is the SR40V, and I notice a bit of in the SR40V. 117, bit drier. It hasn't got the bloom of that. 33. 33 loves it. Come on. Come on. 40V. Come on. Come on. Try not to change my voice. So, you look at that frequency. I don't know what that is, because the frequency response doesn't show it. But there's a bit of something in there, isn't there? Come on. Hey, 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 come on. Hey, hey. 117 coming up. Hey, hey, hey. Come on. Hey, hey, hey. Come on. The 117's a little bit sort of compressed or something compared to the other. So again, the frequency's not going to show any of this kind of stuff. That's why you've got to try these mics. But they're very close and they're very good. I mean, I'm just listening and thinking, I don't know which I prefer, really. Well, I think I do. This for this. stage and this for this. But this is way less expensive. But you might prefer this for stage. Let's move on. Now I'm on the de facto. Now I'm on the de facto. Yeah, the de facto to the 117. The de facto to the 117. This is the de facto. This is the de facto. This is a 117. This is a 117. This is a 117. This is a de facto. This is a de facto. This is a de facto. This is the 117. This is the one. The 117's warmer. Obviously, it's got more of a lower end. So where did we get to with all this stuff? I might have already done the frequencies on the 117. I'm going to do them again because I can always cut it. This is the 117. The 117 taking the bass, taking the mid out. So I'm left with the treble on the 117. I'm left with the treble on the 117, which sounds very sweet. I don't think I did do the 117. Anyway, sounds very sweet. This is a treble completely boosted on the 117. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? And that's the mid and the treble and the bass off. Everything back to flat. Everything back to flat. Everything back to flat. Taking the treble off, taking the bass off. Now I'm just on the mid on the 117, which doesn't sound too bad. When I did this before, I did some preparation for you, and I thought this sounds like it could be an SM58, but cleaner and clearer. So that was one of the notes I made, to plug the SM58. I haven't got any cables left, any sockets, but get around where we're on the mics and try it just to see, because it works all right. That's just the middle. And now I'm boosting the middle. Now I'm boosting the middle. Takes it quite well, but that's obviously too much. Takes it quite well. That's a little bit boosted. Still takes that. A little bit boosted. Back to flat on the middle. Back to flat on everything. Bring the treble back in. Bring the bass back in. Taking the mid out. Taking the top out. We've got just the bass. Just the bass. Just the bass. Going to boost it. Just the bass. Just the bass. 117. Just the bass. Just the bass. 40V, just the bass. Just the bass. That's enough of that. Make sure everything's back to flat in case I go back to another channel. Forget. So, bass is similar on those two, I think, except there's just more on the SR40V. There's just more of it. But it's similar, seems to me, quality. So this is the 117. So let's go over to the DPA and see what I think of that. So this is a DPA de facto. This is a DPA de facto. Up there is very nice. This is the DPA de facto. But there's something going on there, I feel. But yeah. Anyway, this is taking the bass out, taking the mid out. This is just the top end, boosting the 12K. This is boosting the 12K, and again takes it quite nice. So I feel a little bit grainier. Am I wrong? This is the DPA with the top boosted. This is the DPA with the top boosted. This is the DPA with the top boosted and the middle and the bass out. I'm going to do the same thing on the 117. This is the DPA with the top boosted and the middle and the bass out. This is the 117 with the top boosted and the middle and the bass out. This is the 117 with the top boosted and the middle and the bass out. This is the DPA with the top boosted and the middle and the bass out. Depends what you like, doesn't it? I think I prefer the... Well, I won't say... No point saying that because you just have to use your own ears. DPA back to flat. DPA back to flat. Going for the middle then on the DPA. Going for the middle, taking the top off the DPA. Taking the top off. Taking the top off. Has the DPA got a bit of something? According to the chart. Not really. Not a great chart. Sorry about the quality of the graphics on there. It's the best I could find. A little bit pixelated and stuff. Anyway, so getting rid of the treble now. This is the DPA with just the middle. This is the DPA with just the middle. This is the DPA with just the middle. Boosting the middle on the DPA. Boosting the middle on the DPA. Yeah, that's the DPA thing. There's something around there which isn't to my taste so much. This is just... So I wouldn't think this is usable just like that, where I thought the 117 would, a pinch, you could use it. Depending on the voice, I suppose. But so that's what's going on there. It's boosted a bit. And yes, so it's got a bit of something there, hasn't it? More than the others. It's got a bit of something in there. Anyway, putting everything back to flat. Everything's back to flat. Now taking the mid and the treble off the DPA, just the bass. The DPA just just the DP, the DPA just I'm going to boost it. Yeah. Boosting the bass DPA. Yeah, so I knew that, putting everything back to flat, the DPA, as the bass is truncated somewhat, which doesn't suit me or my voice, but might suit yours if you don't go there. So it's a little bit, yeah, that's what's going on there. Which would I choose and why? As a soul mic or as an alternative? Well, obviously it's a bit of an Earthworks fest here, isn't it? So, what am I to say? Well, you already know, the SR40V I would choose. Secondly, for soul mic, I'd use for studio and stage. Obviously, I'm not going to keep this one out of it because it's studio mic. Then next it would be the 117. And then out of these three, for me, the DPA would come last because obviously the bass thing matters to me, and there's something a little, it leaves the upper parts a bit exposed, and having done that frequency thing, there's something in the upper parts which doesn't quite suit my voice somehow. So that's what's going on there, and that's enough. So hope that was of some use to some of you. This is really, I suppose, what I'm thinking of. I think what we're talking about really is state of the art of amongst them all. Depends on your flavour. State of the art of stage condensers, really. From having looked at that website, have a look and thinking and realising the difficulties and what, and you've got to handle noise and all, you've got to handle all that stuff which is going to compromise the sound a bit because you can't have it feeding back and you can't have it making loads of din. You've got to do stuff to stop that and put foam and all, blah, 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 blah. Nonetheless, all that taken into consideration because they're stage mics, I think what we've got here is state of the art. There are others as well, I'm sure, but there you go. True microphones, I would say. Very good. See you next time.